Good evening, everyone. This is Srikanth Rajan, and welcome back to Market Pulse video, where we discuss about what happened in the market last week and what could be expected for the next week. So, talking about the markets last week, market has been completely volatile, and the week started off by giving the major input from Reliance AGM. So that was on Monday. So during the market hours, there was a Reliance AGM, and as the news kept coming, the markets were completely volatile. In fact, people were still expecting for IPOs from Geo Retail and Geo Telecom, but none of those announcements came in, and that was kind of a disappointment. And people just started dumping the stocks, and the markets just fell. So it started off. The weakness started off from that day, and from then on, things have been similar. So that is what was happening. In fact, if you start look at the market, that was one important thing which was very focused on last week, and that actually was a letdown. But after that, there were some news from Adani also, where the SEBI had submitted the report to the Supreme Court, and again there was some news that came out that some investors in Adani Group were people without any background. So all those things were kind of again giving some negativity to the market, and overall markets were negative. In fact, even there was a lot of negativity given by HDFC because their head actually came out and said that the net interest margin actually can actually come down. The net interest income could come down slightly. So all those things are which was kind of giving market a lot of negativity last week. So this is how the week started. But then there were some good news in between as well. So L&T had set the record date for 10,000 crore share buyback on 12th of September. So there was some possibility in L&T. BEL was one of the top gainers. In fact, it hit a 52-week high again after there was news that it had received more than 3,200 crores of orders till date in this last quarter. So these were a few things which actually kept the market slightly positive. But then the interesting thing was the FIAs were actually playing cat and mouse game. So they did buy some day, they bought some days, but then they did also sell. So something very important to watch was the FIAs. When they were buying, the buyings was small number, but then when they were selling, the sellings were big. So that is something which is kind of peculiar that we've seen of late in the FIA behavior. Of course, probably there is something which we are not yet aware of. So that should be something that could be watched. So apart from that, we could see a lot of recovery in the Chinese market. So government had announced a lot of initiatives to kind of bring up the Chinese market, and that came as a positive to Indian metal stocks. So last week, metal stocks were in focus. They have actually closed in the green. All the stocks like Tata Steel, SAIL, NMDC, so all these stocks have actually gained because of that positivity from China. Now, how long is that going to retain? I don't know. But one thing is for sure, China is of course hell-bent on trying to improve their economy, and that could be of course a positive news for metals at this point of time. So I was actually planning to exit metals some time back, but then I held on to it. I'm sure MPA family members know that. So that is kind of sitting with some good profit. So expecting that kind of take off if China improves. So that could be something that could be looked at. Apart from that, there was next important thing to be focused last week was the US GDP data. In fact, the GDP came in at 2.1%, which was lesser than expectation of 2.4%. So this actually was a negative news for US. But then, as we discussed in the podcast, even though it was negative, market took it positive, thinking that the Federal Reserve now may take this as a cue to not increase the rates further in the US. So that's why we could see the US markets actually rallying last week. In fact, the entire week the US markets rallied and actually closed well in the green, but then Indian markets were nowhere close. So what is what's happening with Indian market? So there is something that we need to note, that economists are actually saying in India the inflation was not much affected during the manufacturing for the manufacturers, because the input raw material cost was actually down, and the inflation and the interest rate hike actually did not affect the companies much. But now, as the raw material prices are also kind of going up, the inflation is kind of slightly was settled and now slightly going up. So that is kind of a little concern for manufacturing sector, and probably that is something which is kind of holding back market at this point of time. Not only that, there was some good news again from there, because India's GDP also went higher, and that was something really good. So in fact, even US GDP went down, US market went up. Interestingly, Indian GDP was up, and still Indian markets went down. So this is how the markets are. They're peculiar at times. So at times there's no logic behind the movement, but of course this is just a temporary situation. Again, there are a lot of good news that came in. GST collection went up last week. The data showed that it went up 11% year on year and almost touched 1.6 lakh crore. Imagine last year, I remember when I was doing a podcast, when I used to say GST collection has touched 1 lakh crore, it was like a huge thing that continued completely till now, and now it is kind of it's setting records like 1.6 lakh crores. That's almost 60% more than the top number. So that is something which is also doing good at this point of time. So this are things that's happening right now. Along with that, last week we could see positivity in the auto stocks as well, because a lot of deliveries are expected during Dasara and Diwali, and followed by that the December sales are also supposed to be good. So what has happened is a lot of manufacturers, as per data which has come from SEBI, I'm talking about SEBI, is about ARAI. So the data says that the lot of deliveries expecting a lot of deliveries. Most of the auto manufacturing companies have actually pushed a lot of inventories to the dealerships. Now that's a good thing, because these cars have already been built from the manufacturer. The expectation is that the market is going to take in all these kind of stocks and sales should be good. So because of this expectation, auto stocks have actually rallied up in the last week. So that is kind of good, but then we need to actually see how is the scenario, because with the interest rates high, are the festive sales going to be the similar thing as last year? So that needs to be looked at, and if that happens really good, then auto stocks will kind of hold up. Otherwise, then after some time we might see some shake off there. So that's something that can be expected. Over the weekend, the last news that I would like to talk about, which we have not spoken on the podcast, is nothing but Uday Kotak has stepped down from the head position of Kotak Mahindra Bank. So of course he had his tenure till December 2023, but what he says is he stepped down early so that the changeover could be in sync and can be easier. So now how is the market going to take that news is something that we need to look at. In fact, we just added some more Kotak last week, but then Kotak as a company is kind of strong fundamentally, so I'm not expecting things to be really bad, but this could be positive at times as well, because Mr. Uday Kotak, being a family member, family owned, he is a part of the company. If he moves out, a professional coming in the place can actually boost some positivity in the market. So that can be seen as a positive news as well. So that's something that we need to see how the market is reacting tomorrow. So these are few things to be talking about last week. Now coming to one important thing, as the entire week went negative, but on Friday we saw the market seeing a big rally upwards. In fact, it was so huge that markets have actually been closed about 19,300. So the important thing to look at is at this point of time, the markets have been holding that level of 19,250 to 300 very strongly. So this is a very important level to watch in the upcoming week as well, because any negativity which can lead lower than 250, 19,200 to 19,250 can be a dangerous situation for a temporary period. So that is something that could be looked at on the lower side. On the higher side, multiple times market did try to go over 19,450. 19,450 to 500 is acting as a very good resistance zone, which if broken on the higher side can actually lead to a higher levels. But at this point of time, I am expecting, as we expected last week, markets have kind of closed within the same level of 19,000 to 19,500. This week, I am expecting a similar close, something around 18,900 to 19,500. So that's the expectation. However, markets can of course behave, and I have the right to be wrong there, right? So that's how things are looking at this point of time. Coming to this week, again being the start of a new month, we have a lot of data coming in. How the initial set of data which is actually come is actually looking really good. So the month is actually looking good, but then we need to see how the US markets are actually reacting, because one thing, tomorrow is a holiday in the US market, so Indian market will not have any cues from the US. So that's something that we need to be watched out. Apart from that, on this week there's no much event, but then in the US there are few Federal Reserve members speaking. So whenever these guys speak, a lot of media attention is there, and anything negative or positive actually can trigger some movement in the market. US markets, since they have been kind of rallying the last week, there are chances of some correction there that can be watched out. But if you look at India specific market, I would say Indian markets have kind of consolidated well. So I don't see a reason why Indian market should fall big further. So I'm not expecting the market to fall below 19,000, but to be safer side, around 18,900 to 19,000 is what I'm expecting the market to kind of stay still at this point of time. But then this consolidation for so long is not a great thing. A big movement can come, and that big movement can be really dangerous. So that's something which is kind of holding me back from taking aggressive positions and trading. But then yes, I am using opportunities to invest. In fact, last week I did some good shopping in the market, and that seems to be good. So let's see that things can go, how things can go at this market at this point of time. So these are a few things which I want to share with you. I think nothing else for this week. Things are looking cool as of now. So probably I am only, I think what I'm expecting right now is the next result season to come and kind of take the markets higher. But as of now, I don't see any reason why the market should go really high. So these are our expectations for now, unless something new or news comes up and crops up in the market. So these are things that I had to speak. I think I've shared it all. For MP family members, let us catch up at 7:30 for the weekly meeting. For others, yes, let us catch up tomorrow on the next podcast. So that's it for now. This is Srikanth Rajan signing off until we catch up tomorrow morning. So wishing you all a great week ahead. Goodbye.